Xiao Zhan's rise to fame was dazzling, but his journey was never a straight path of glory. From a design student in Chongqing to the breakout star of the Untamed, his story seemed like a fairy tale. Yet, behind the glamour, he faced one of the most notorious internet storms in Chinese entertainment history, the 227 incident. He endured boycotts, cyberbullying, and an uncertain future, only to return stronger than ever. This is the story of survival, resilience, and power in the face of chaos. Stay with us on Criminal Tracks as we uncover Xiao Zhan's remarkable journey. Xiao Zhan was born in 1991 in the bustling city of Chongqing, a place known for its fiery food and equally fiery spirit. He did not come from a family with connections to the entertainment world. His parents were ordinary people who emphasized education and humility, values that would shape the way he carried himself long after fame found him. As a boy, Xiao Zhan was shy, but had a natural inclination for the arts. He loved drawing and design, and his talent led him to study graphic design at Chongqing Technology and Business University. No one could have guessed then that this quiet student would one day stand at the center of one of China's most intense fan cultures. While studying, he did not immediately envision himself as an actor or singer. Instead, he focused on design, photography, and even set up a small studio with friends to work on creative projects. Yet life has a way of opening doors in unexpected ways. In 2015, he took a leap into a completely different world by auditioning for the reality talent show X Fire, a program designed to find new idols. Xiao Zhan's clean looks and boy-next-door charm immediately caught attention, though he was already older than most trainees and lacked professional training in singing or dancing. Against the odds, he persevered. What he lacked in polish, he made up for in discipline and determination. By 2016, Xiao Zhan had become a member of the boy band X9, a group formed through X-Fire. The early years were not glamorous. X9 did not achieve the overnight superstardom many fans expected. Their songs gained modest popularity, but they never quite broke through the crowded idol market in China. Xiao Zhan, however, stood out even in those early performances. His visuals were striking, but beyond that, he showed a willingness to push himself to improve vocally and on stage. Those who followed him closely saw a young man who refused to give up even when his career path seemed uncertain. His persistence eventually opened doors in acting. In 2016 and 2017, he began appearing in supporting roles in television dramas. These early roles were not headline-making, but they gave him valuable experience. He learned how to navigate cameras, work long hours, and slowly build a screen presence. What kept him going was his belief that effort would eventually meet opportunity. That belief would prove prophetic. Everything changed in 2019 with the release of The Untamed. This fantasy drama, adapted from a popular web novel, paired Xiao Zhan with fellow rising actor Wang Yibo. Xiao Zhan played Wei Wuxian, a character both mischievous and tragic, whose complexity demanded emotional depth. It was the role that perfectly aligned with his talents. Almost overnight, he went from a relatively unknown idol-turned-actor to one of the most recognized faces in Asia. The Untamed became a cultural phenomenon not just in China, but across international markets, reaching audiences in Thailand, Korea, the United States, and beyond. Fans were captivated not only by his acting, but by the chemistry between Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo. The two actors became the subject of intense fan fiction and shipping culture, which would later play a controversial role in his career. At the time, however, it felt like nothing but triumph. Xiao Zhan was suddenly everywhere, on magazine covers, on billboards, on variety shows. Brands clamored to sign him, and his social media following exploded to tens of millions. For someone who once thought he might spend his life behind a computer designing logos, this rise was nothing short of extraordinary. Despite his newfound fame, Xiao Zhan carried himself with the same humility instilled by his parents. he was frequently described by co-stars and production crews as polite, reserved, and professional. He did not indulge in flashy lifestyles or show off wealth. Instead, he projected the image of a hardworking actor grateful for every opportunity. This image resonated strongly with fans who saw him as both relatable and admirable. Behind the scenes, however, the pressure was immense. Stardom in China brings not just adoration, but also relentless scrutiny. His fandom, known as Xiao Xia, or Little Flying Knights, grew at a dizzying pace. They were fiercely protective of him, often going to extremes to defend his reputation online. While Xiao Zhan himself rarely spoke about fan culture, the intensity surrounding his name created an environment that was both a blessing and a ticking time bomb. At this point in his journey, he had everything an actor could dream of: fame, wealth, endorsements, and an international fan base. Yet, as history would show, the higher one climbs in China's entertainment industry, the steeper the fall can be when controversies strike. The story of Xiao Zhan's rise was dazzling, but the challenges waiting around the corner would test his resilience in ways few could have predicted. The success of the Untamed turned Xiao Zhan into one of the brightest stars in China, but it also pushed him into the most dangerous spotlight of all: the unforgiving battlefield of internet culture. Fame in the digital age is not just about talent. It is about how fans behave, how critics react, and how scandals can ignite like wildfire. For Xiao Zhan, this truth came crashing down in early 2020, when the so-called 227 incident erupted and changed the trajectory of his career. It began with fan enthusiasm that spiraled out of control. A group of Xiao Zhan's most loyal supporters noticed a piece of fan fiction on the platform Archive of Our Own, known as AO3. The story portrayed his character in The Untamed in ways they found offensive, mixing elements of cross-dressing and same-sex romance. To outsiders, this may have seemed harmless, but to his fans, it was seen as disrespectful. Out of a desire to protect their idol's image, they reported the content en masse. The result was devastating. AO3 was soon blocked in mainland China, and the backlash from the creative community was immediate and ferocious. Instead of Xiao Zhan being shielded, he became the center of outrage. Writers, artists, and ordinary internet users blamed him for the platform's ban, even though there was no evidence that he personally played any role in the reports. Hashtags calling for his boycott began trending, and the incident quickly escalated into one of the biggest fan wars in Chinese internet history. For months, Xiao Zhan's name was dragged across every social platform. He was accused of enabling censorship, of being ungrateful for the support that fan culture had given him, and of symbolizing the worst aspects of celebrity worship. The consequences were severe. Brands that had once lined up to work with him began to back away. Endorsements were canceled or quietly allowed to expire. Television appearances and scheduled projects were shelved. In an industry where reputation determines opportunity, Xiao Zhan suddenly looked like a liability. Even as some fans continued to fight for him, the sheer scale of the online anger made it nearly impossible for him to appear in public without controversy following close behind. During this time, the actor himself remained silent. He did not issue fiery defenses or lengthy explanations. Instead, he disappeared from the spotlight, a move that only fueled speculation. Was he guilty? Was he ashamed? Or was he simply overwhelmed? The silence was interpreted in every possible way, but one fact remained clear: his career was in jeopardy. The 227 incident also exposed the dark side of modern fandom. On one side were his defenders, organized and powerful, able to trend hashtags within minutes. On the other side were his detractors, equally organized, determined to punish him for what they saw as the arrogance of his fan base. Xiao Zhan became a symbol, no longer just an actor, but a lightning rod for debates about censorship, toxic fandom, and the responsibilities of celebrities in the internet age. Speculation about his private life also intensified. Rumors circulated about supposed romantic relationships, though none were ever confirmed. Tabloids and online gossip forums linked him to fellow actors and actresses, often with no evidence beyond coincidental appearances or speculative fan theories. Each rumor fueled arguments between fans and critics, keeping his name in constant circulation, but rarely in a positive light. The weight of cyberbullying during this period was crushing. Posts mocking him, criticizing him, and calling for his permanent removal from the industry filled the internet. His social media accounts were flooded with insults, and boycotts against his work spread. The very passion that had once elevated him now threatened to destroy him. It was a test of resilience, one that could have ended his career entirely. What kept Xiao Zhan afloat was the sheer size of his fan base. Even amid the chaos, millions of his supporters refused to abandon him. They defended him in comment sections, organized charity donations under his name, and continued to buy the products he endorsed when possible. In one striking example, fans raised large sums of money to help fight the pandemic in his name, demonstrating that his influence had not vanished. But even loyal fans could not erase the stain of the controversy. For many, Xiao Zhan was now both a beloved star and a polarizing figure. The industry, however, knows that public memory can be short if handled carefully. By late 2020, there were signs of a slow, cautious comeback. Xiao Zhan returned to acting, though in roles that had been filmed before the scandal erupted. His drama The Wolf aired in late 2020 after long delays, and though it did not achieve the same sensation as The Untamed, it showed that audiences were still willing to watch him. The release was carefully managed with little promotional fanfare, but it marked a step back into visibility. His next major project, Duoluo Continent in 2021, was even more significant. The fantasy drama, based on a popular novel, received enormous attention and became a streaming hit. Xiao Zhan's performance was praised, and while critics acknowledged the shadow of the 227 incident, they also noted his ability to hold an audience's attention. By then, the conversation was shifting. Instead of dwelling only on the controversy, people began asking whether he could sustain a career despite it. Still, recovery was far from complete. The entertainment industry in China is heavily influenced by public opinion, and Xiao Zhan remained under scrutiny. Every public appearance was analyzed for signs of humility or arrogance. Every endorsement was questioned. He had to tread carefully, aware that one misstep could reignite the fury that had nearly ended him. This period of scandal and backlash defined him in ways fame alone never could. He learned that popularity in China comes with a cost, that the same forces that elevate a star can just as quickly destroy one. The 227 incident would never fully disappear from his story, but how he handled the aftermath, silence, patience, and carefully planned comebacks showed a different side of him. He was no longer just the breakout star of the Untamed. He was now a controversial figure, a survivor of one of the harshest internet storms ever directed at a single celebrity. The path forward was uncertain, but it was becoming clear that Xiao Zhan was determined to walk it, no matter how difficult it might be. By the time Xiao Zhan returned to the spotlight in full force, he was no longer the same fresh-faced newcomer who had once captured audiences with the Untamed. He had walked through fire and carried the scars of one of China's most brutal internet storms. Yet the resilience he showed in the aftermath became part of his identity, allowing him to rebuild his career step by step and reclaim his place at the top of the entertainment industry. After the release of The Wolf and Duoluo Continent, Xiao Zhan continued to prove that audiences were still invested in his work. In 2022, The Oath of Love, a modern romance drama starring him alongside actress Yang Zi, finally aired after repeated delays. The show became a commercial success, trending across platforms and drawing strong ratings. His portrayal of a gentle, dedicated doctor further softened his public image, allowing him to distance himself from the stormy reputation of the past. The timing could not have been better. China's entertainment industry had begun to focus more heavily on positive energy and role model behavior, and Xiao Zhan's low-profile, hard-working persona aligned perfectly with that trend. At the same time, he regained the trust of luxury brands. Endorsements with Gucci, Tod's, Estee Lauder, and Zenith returned him to the world of high fashion and global marketing campaigns. The same companies that had once hesitated to associate with him now placed his face on billboards and magazine covers again. This was a clear sign. Not only had Xiao Zhan survived the controversy, but he had emerged as a stronger commercial force than before. His influence was undeniable. Products he endorsed routinely sold out within hours, proving that his fan base still had unmatched purchasing power. In terms of public persona, Xiao Zhan remained cautious. He avoided commenting on the 227 incident directly, a silence that some criticized but most accepted as a strategy to prevent old wounds from reopening. His team carefully curated his image as professional, humble, and grateful. He appeared at events with measured grace, gave interviews that emphasized his focus on work rather than gossip, and never gave fuel to tabloid rumors. For someone once surrounded by controversy, restraint became his most powerful tool. Financially, Xiao Zhan rose into the top tier of Chinese celebrities. His net worth grew through acting fees, endorsements, and music projects. Concerts and fan meetings sold out instantly, while his singles charted strongly, both domestically and internationally. In the world of Chinese entertainment, where competition is ruthless and careers can collapse overnight, Xiao Zhan had secured a rare form of stability. He became a bankable star whose name alone guaranteed attention. Yet the shadow of fan culture never disappeared completely. His fandom, known for its loyalty and organization, continued to play a huge role in his career. They mobilized for charity projects in his name, defended him fiercely online, and ensured that his every project made headlines. But this also meant that he lived under constant watch. Every word, every appearance, every silence was analyzed by both supporters and critics. Xiao Zhan became more than an actor. He was a cultural symbol, representing both the dangers of toxic fan wars and the resilience needed to withstand them. Beyond entertainment, Xiao Zhan's story began to resonate on a larger scale. To many observers, he symbolized the precarious balance between celebrity, internet culture, and public opinion in China. His downfall during the 227 incident showed how quickly things could unravel, but his comeback demonstrated the power of patience and image control. He became a case study for how stars could survive scandal without directly confronting it, instead focusing on work, silence, and gradual rebuilding. Today, Xiao Zhan stands as one of China's most influential celebrities. With a fan base that stretches far beyond the country's borders, his projects continue to draw international audiences, particularly in Southeast Asia and among global drama fans. He has carved out a reputation as an actor capable of both fantasy epics and modern romance, giving him versatility in an industry that often traps stars in one type of role. His journey from a design student in Chongqing to a global face of Chinese entertainment reflects not only personal ambition, but also the unpredictable power of the internet age. For all his success, Xiao Zhan's career remains a balancing act. He must maintain his carefully crafted image, avoid unnecessary scandals, and continue choosing roles that appeal to audiences while satisfying state expectations. The lessons of the past still linger. He knows better than anyone that fame in China can be fragile, that one misstep from him, or even from his fans, could trigger another storm. And yet, his survival has already proven him different from many of his peers who fell and never rose again. What makes Xiao Zhan's story compelling is not only the glamour of his success, but the tension of his resilience. He is a star who was nearly erased by online fury, only to return stronger and more powerful than before. To his fans, he remains a beloved symbol of endurance. To critics, he represents the complicated relationship between celebrities and their fandoms. And to the entertainment industry, he is a reminder that even the darkest scandals can be overcome with silence, patience, and the right timing. Xiao Zhan's career is proof that fame in the digital age is as dangerous as it is rewarding. He soared to unimaginable heights, was nearly buried by scandal, and yet fought his way back into the spotlight with patience and discipline. Today, he stands as one of China's most influential and bankable stars. But his story is more than entertainment. It is a lesson about resilience when the world turns against you. If you found this story as compelling as we did, don't forget to subscribe to Criminal Tracks for more hidden truths behind the stars.